Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Evolved Man Masterclass. Today, I'm super excited to have with me PJ Dixon. Welcome, PJ.
Thanks, brother. I'm super duper excited to be here. It's an actual real honor to be in your presence.
Well, the honor is mine. So, PJ, you are a lifelong motivational speaker and international life, love, and relationship coach
I
who
am.
focuses on results. So, I want to dive into what all of that means. But uh, first, let's kick off before we talk about love and evolved humanity. Let's talk about you, your backstory.
Cool.
You've overcome quite a lot in your life, and you're definitely inspirational. So, I want to talk a little bit about your background.
All right, cool. So you can probably tell that I look a little bit different than everybody else. And those people who are just listening, I will describe myself a little bit. I have a very rare form of muscular dystrophy. I was only expected to live until I was 7. And this year in May, I turned 49. So I've lived 42 years longer than they expected me to. So I always joke and say, either there's something good for me to do, which I hope, or God's pissed and I have to work off my karma, which is probably the case. I'm probably in trouble somewhere. So
It
if I
might be
back
that duality right there,
up,
right?
right, absolutely, that duality. So if I back up a little bit, so the people that are actually looking, you can see the wheelchair in the background, right? And you can see like how far back my chair is.
Right.
So if I lean back, try and get my shoulders to touch it, I can't even get my shoulders to touch it very well. So to explain for people, since I can't get any further back, my arms are super duper skinny, right?
Right.
So I'm just giving people an understanding of who I am. I can't lift my own arms without using both hands. And my spine is so curved forward that if you think about sitting on the chair that you're on right now and your knees are spread open and you rock your pelvis forward so your belly button is on the chair between your thighs, and then you arch your back up so you're from the lower ribs up to your shoulders and your head are upright like they should be, that's what I look like. So my butt sticks way out in the back because my lower spine is basically um, parallel to my thighs. So this is what I look like, right? And this is basically how I grew up. I grew up with a disability. I was born with it.
Right.
I walked until 3rd grade, threw away my leg braces 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. I distinctly remember them sticking out of the trash can. Now, whether my mom pulled them out of the trash later and put them up in the closet somewhere in case I needed them, I don't know. All I know is my little memory has these leg braces sticking out of the trash. Okay. Um, 6th grade and 7th grade, I was too weak to walk without leg braces. 8th grade, I was too weak to walk more than about 20 or 25 feet without falling. So every 20, 25 feet, I would fall. I'd like stand back up. I'd walk 20, 25 feet. I'd fall again. Pretty soon, the principal and my teachers started calling my mom and saying, "Hey, you need to like get this kid a wheelchair or something because he can't walk anymore." And my
Right.
mom was like, "Okay." So that changed my life, profoundly changed my life, and not necessarily in a good way, in a way that made me feel like I was less than. I was
Right.
already 7th and 8th grade is already a difficult time, right, for men and for boys, right, for anybody really. The truth is, for anybody,
Right.
7th and 8th grade is just a difficult time, and it was particularly hard for me because I was coming into an awareness of my disability, meaning more specifically, I was coming into an awareness of my disempowerment, how weak I was in compared to the other boys. And
Right.
the only thing I wanted, like every other boy in the world, was to be a hero, right? To be strong, to win the girl's heart, to save, to save the people, to kill the dragon, whatever it was, when you have those fantasies as a boy. And yet I couldn't even lift my own arms very well. I couldn't walk very well. And they put me into an electric wheelchair. So this is where my awareness of what I didn't have came.
Right.
Okay. So in high school, I started to realize, and I've been speaking since I was 7 years old because of my disability, my particular disorder, and apparently I was, a cute little kid and I could talk fairly well, and so the muscular dystrophy picked me up and put me on stage. So I tell you that just to give you a bit of a background. In high school is when I started to realize, like authentically realize, that my disability was actually a gift to other people, because other people would look at me and say, "Wow, man, if PJ can do it, then I can do it." And so
Right.
that also motivated and drove me to be the best person that I could possibly be. But at the same time, I killed my own sexuality because I was none of the girls were interested in me in junior high and then high school, and so the only way that I could get women's attention was to kill my sexuality and
Okay.
just so that I was everybody's friend. So this is really, my mom would always turn to me and talk with me, and she she was a art therapist for 27 years. And, you know, she would always talk to my sister and I about psychology and, you know, about like emotions and what was going on in her relationship or relationships. And so was raised to talk about love. I was raised to listen. You
Right.
know, I was raised to be that person that everybody turned to. So that's where I got my sense of value. That's where I got my sense of power. And then if we fast forward to when I was 28 in October of 97, I moved to Tucson. Hang in with me for just a couple more minutes to get through the story, because this gives you an understanding of like who I am and
Right.
where this concept of really teaching and talking about love comes from. So I didn't particularly like myself. Let me rephrase that. I liked myself and I thought I was okay, but I didn't necessarily love myself. I was in this state where I was like love yourself. Like, what does that even mean? Like, love yourself? I don't even know what that means. I distinctly remember having this conversation with myself when I heard people say, you just need to learn to love yourself. You just need to learn to love yourself. Didn't make any sense to me.
Right.
So in 1997, October of 97, I moved to Tucson, Arizona, and I had moved out here to study with some spiritual teachers. One of my teachers said, I want you to go home tonight and pray and just say, God, you know, what do you want me to do with my life? And I said, sure, cool, I can do that. So I went back to my friend's house where I was staying. First night in Tucson, closed my eyes, said, God, I believe I moved to Tucson for a reason. What is it that you want me to do with my life? And I got still. And I've been meditating since I was 19. So
Right.
by this point, I've been meditating almost 10 years and 8 years, I guess. And so in that process, right, I sat and I said, God, what do you want me to do? And I got still. I got deeply, profoundly still. And when I got that still, all of a sudden, this pillar of golden light came through the ceiling, hit me in the top of the head, filled up my entire being, and said, love. There was one word, love. And in a moment, I was like, okay, cool, I can do that. I've been speaking for 20 years, and that's what I know. I know how to love the audience. I know how to love the people that I'm talking with. I know how to love somebody who's got a broken heart. I know how to be there when people are suffering and struggling. I know how to balance between men and women when they're struggling in relationships. I know how to do this. I can do this,
Right.
right? I know how to motivate and inspire men to be the best that they can be. So I know how to do all of this. This is great. Well, the story fast forwards a little bit, and it fast forwards to this point where, remember that was October 97, April of 98. Well, between January and April of 98, I started having visions of being hit by a car at a bus stop because I don't drive. So I would take public transportation.
Okay.
So I got hypersensitive and hyper aware. And every bus stop, I was like, okay, where do I sit? Do I sit in front of the bus stop? Do I sit behind the bus stop? Do I sit behind the big concrete trash can? Do I sit 20 feet, 40 feet in front of the bus stop? Do I sit 20 or 40 feet behind it, like, and watch for the bus as it comes and then move forward to join? Like, what do I do? So how quickly can I jump out of my chair? You know, and I've been training in martial arts since I was 19. So
Okay.
again, you know, I've got lots of martial arts training at this point. So jumping out of my chair is, you know, something that I'm willing to do if I need to do it.
Okay.
So I'm dropped off one night in April of 98, dropped off one night, and I'm walking about a mile to martial arts class. And as I'm walking to martial arts class, I walk by this bus stop and I don't think anything of it. I see this oncoming traffic. There's 3 lanes of oncoming traffic coming at me. I'm on the side of the traffic that's coming towards me. I see this big black SUV coming out of Boston Market on my left side.
Okay.
Traffic's coming on my right side towards me. I look at the traffic. There's no place for the SUV to go. I walk out in front of him, not thinking about my vision.
Right.
He steps on the gas, guns it, hits me on my left side, throws me out into 3 lanes of traffic. I'm in the air. I hear my wheelchair crumple underneath his SUV. I have time to just say a quick prayer. God, please, whatever happens, don't let him roll over my pelvis. I tuck and I roll. I hit the blacktop, the concrete, the blacktop. I tuck and roll. His front driver's side wheel comes to rest leaning against my pelvis. 2 more inches, he would have crushed my pelvis.
What?
Now, yeah, I know, right? Crazy. So anyway, if I go on, so in that moment, not a single car hit another car, not a single car hit him, not a single car hit me. They were all able to slow down, weave, do whatever they needed to do to
Right.
stop from hitting each other. And there happened to be an EMT team, an emergency medical team inside of the Boston Market that came running out, took care of me, took me across the street to the hospital. I wasn't meant to die that day, brother. I wasn't meant to die that day. I was meant to experience what the next 4 months would be. Excruciating pain. And this is where I'm going with this. Men need to hear this. Okay? I lived the next 4 months in excruciating physical and emotional pain.
Right.
because everything that I had and knew had been taken from me. All of the strength that I had left in my little tiny 75 or 80-pound body, right? Any power and independence that I had to climb up in my own wheelchair, to climb in and out of the shower, to climb up onto the toilet, to get myself dressed, any of that that I had was gone because of the amount of pain that I was in. And so I spiraled downwards. For 4 months, I was in physical therapy. For 4 months, I was in excruciating pain. I couldn't sit up because it hurt. I couldn't lay down because it hurt. I couldn't roll over because it hurt. I couldn't sit on the toilet because the toilet seat was hard and it hurt. I couldn't sit in the shower to get clean because it hurt. I couldn't push my own wheelchair. I couldn't speak from stage. I couldn't go to my regular day job. I couldn't train in martial art my whole life, brother. And I was already at a gross disadvantage physically, right? Because
Yeah.
of the disability. So I want people to understand everything was stolen from me. Everything in that moment was stolen from me. Or was it? Because after 4 months of physical therapy and massage therapy and aqua therapy and electric stimulation and range of motion and everything that the physical therapist could do, the very last day, he literally said, PJ, I've talked to every mentor I have. He said, I've talked to my old college professors. I've looked at all of my old books, all of my old textbooks.
Right.
He's like, I've looked at medical journals. He's like, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know why you're in pain. He said, I did talk to one other mentor just the other day, and he said that it might be that your pelvic bone has popped out of place. And he said, I'm going to palpate. I'm going to push through your pubic region, and I'm going to push back to feel the pelvic bone. And he did. And of course, that hurts a little bit, but it's worth it. And he goes, that's what's wrong. Your pelvic bone has popped out of place. Your right pelvis has popped out of place. He's like, this is going to hurt, but I'm going to pop it back in. Are you willing to do this? This is what I want everybody in your audience to hear. He asked, are you willing to do this? Meaning, are you willing to go through the pain to have what you want? And I said, absolutely. Absolutely. How many times in your life are you going to get the chance to walk through the fire? How many times are you going to have to step up to the pain and say, that's freaking scary? And I'm afraid of that, but I'm going to hold myself strong and I'm going to hold myself high and I'm going to step into it because what could be on the other side? Brother, he grabbed that pelvic bone, right? And my mom happened to be staying with me at the time. And so she was holding down my upper body. I was
Right.
laying on one of those like hospital examining tables, not hospital, but like like a clinic examining table, right? And he grabbed a hold of that pelvic bone with both of his hands and pop, wah! He popped that sucker back into place. Wow, man, did that hurt. But I'll tell you what, the moment that I went through the pain, everything else was gone. There was no more pain. Immediately, all the other pain was gone because he put me into alignment. And this is what men need to understand. To go through the pain, to get in alignment. The pain usually with men is that fear of being vulnerable, that
Right.
fear of owning their own power, that fear of stepping truthfully into what it is that they want to do, that fear of standing their ground, that fear of actually having a conversation that might allow them to be intimate and be seen and be a little bit like exposed emotionally, right? That sense of vulnerability. Tom Petty sang that song, You Can Stand Me Up at the Gates of Hell, but I won't back down. This is the way men think. Yeah, buddy, stand me in front of the gates of hell and I'm not backing down because I'm a man. This is what we do. We're
Right.
warriors, right? We're strong. I'm not going to back down. Baby, how do you feel? I don't know. I'm going to go out and do something else, right? So we run from that. We're afraid of that. So I want men to realize that I chose to walk through that fire. I chose to let him realign me. I chose to let somebody help me pop that hip back into place. And when he did, all of a sudden, all the other pain was gone. When all the other pain left, immediately, I felt this sense of appreciation for the life that I thought I had lost and the life prior to being hit by the SUV, the life that I didn't appreciate, the life that I didn't necessarily like and I certainly didn't love.
Right.
Immediately, I was overwhelmed with this sense of appreciation and this sense of when you're filled with appreciation, it turns into gratitude. And gratitude is an expression outwards. And that gratitude then turns into love. And that's where everything started for me. Everything really started for me with my mom and then realizing that I was of value to people by listening. But I shifted powerfully in that moment when I got my life back. And that's important for people to realize. When you get your life back, what we're really talking about is I'm proclaiming and claiming, I'm staking claim to my authenticity.
Right.
Who am I really? Not who is my ego, not what are my fears, my invisible fears that maybe I'm not aware of, but who am I? What do I stand for? Where does my masculinity get to be expressed fully and completely? Who do I want to be as that man, as that hero, as that warrior?
That's an amazing story. There's so much in there.
Thanks.
A, you had the premonition. B, everything worked out, sort of, and then you work through that pain. So I want to talk about the kind of metaphor that you set up in terms of helping people um, step up and choose the pain and choose to walk through that and serve it. So if I'm going to play devil's advocate, or if I'm going to
Let's do it.
say I'm the guy playing small, it's like, PJ, that's great that you had this pain, but I haven't had this extreme story, and I haven't had this extreme pain to help me need that realignment. So, if I haven't faced that extreme adversity, does this work for me?
Absolutely works for you, because that pain that you face could be emotional. It could be fear. It could be concern about how you're showing up in the world. It could be loneliness. It could be, I'm not actually being authentic. I don't feel empowered. I don't feel like there's any masculine power in my body. I feel like I want to connect with my girlfriend, but I'm afraid to go intimate and deep because I'm afraid to let her see my sense of vulnerability, because as a man, I think that I'm supposed to be strong. It could come from that place of, I always fight with somebody because I feel like I always have to be right. All of these are your pain, right? People are like, oh my God, I can never do what you do. I shouldn't complain about what I'm going through because, I mean, look at your life. I'm like, my life's good. First of all, I'm not in any pain. Second of all, I value who I am, and I value the fact that I'm a disabled guy, because it allows me to experience and influence so many people at a different level. So your pain doesn't have to be mine. It doesn't have to be my journey. My hero's journey isn't your hero's journey.
Right.
You get to live authentically how yours is. So let's look at where you're not showing up in your life. Let's look at what you're afraid of. Let's look at what's not working for you. Let's look at where you're uncomfortable. Let's look at where you want to be, but you're not. Let's
Right.
look at these things. These are where your gaps exist. These are where, this is where I am now, but that's where I want to be. Right? So what's in the gap from where I am now to where I want to be? That's your hero's journey, right? And usually what it is I'm standing on a mountaintop, or maybe a hillside, and I'm looking out across a valley and up another mountain, and over there is where I think I should be.
Right.
Right. But the problem is sometimes we have to go down into the valley and climb back out. And then once we get to the mountain peak on the next one, then one of the beautiful things about being a human is you see your potential is on the next mountaintop. So you get to go back down and climb back out. So don't compare your story to mine, but instead look at where you stand right now and identify, where am I not happy? What do I
Right.
really want to be doing? Ultimately, truthfully, where do I want to be living? Who do I want to be dating? How do I want to be showing up in the world? Is my bank account the way I want my bank account to be? Right? What is in your gap? What's stopping you? That's your journey. That's your dragon to slay. So, Ben, let me circle back very, very briefly. Remember when I told the story about the pillar of golden light coming through, hitting me in the top of the head, filling up my being, and saying the word love? I
Yes, I do.
thought that in that moment, that was um, spirit, or the universe, however you want to define it, um, telling me to love other people. But after I got hit by the SUV and went through the physical therapy and got realigned, I realized that 10 months earlier, that message 10 months earlier, was not at all about me necessarily loving other people, because I was already doing that.
Right.
About me learning to appreciate and being grateful and loving who I am and the life that I have, learning to love myself so that I could teach other people to love themselves, so that I could love other people more. Can you love other people when you don't love yourself? Absolutely. And most people are going to say, no way, it's not possible. But if you look at a single mother, right,
Right.
or a single father who doesn't necessarily like themselves, but they love their children and they would do anything for their children, right, but they're not happy with who they are, it demonstrates that you can love others without loving yourself. But can you love others more completely, more purely, more fully if
Right.
you love yourself? Absolutely. And that's where it starts. If you're going to pour into your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister or your team or your employees, or your girlfriend or your wife or your children, learn to find inside of yourself the value that you bring as a man, and
Right.
learn to love that masculine power that you have, and learn to use that masculine power to inspire, to protect, to provide, to lead, to guide, and also to be courageous enough to sit and listen, to
Right.
be courageous enough to actually expose your own vulnerability, your own heart. Because when you have that ability to touch your own heart, you have the ability to inspire other people. often, brother, what I talk about from stage is being the best version of yourself. And
Right.
being the best version of yourself starts with guiding people through the most important journey they'll ever take, the 18 inches between their head and their heart. And I don't want you to give up your intellect, but I want you to also additionally embrace your heart, right? We are
Yep.
physical, we are spiritual, we are emotional, we are intellectual, we are social. Let's bring all these together. Let's create this sense of fullness and completeness. That's where your power exists, in the connection, not in the disconnection.
So you touched on this a little bit, but okay, I'm a practical guy. How do I get more in touch with my heart? What are the top 5 things I can do?
Fantastic. So before we even go there, let's actually touch on something that I think is really important, because a lot of people now are talking about like getting men to touch their heart. I do too, and that's really important. But what we're forgetting is that men want to be men. We
Right.
don't have opportunities. We're not in tribes anymore, mostly, right? And so we don't have that opportunity to protect the tribe and the family. Some people gain that masculine power through martial arts. Some people gain that masculine power through sports. Some people gain that masculine power from joining the military, right? But the average man doesn't necessarily gain in that masculine power. And also, another way that some people gain that masculine power is, they grew up on a farm.
Right.
Often see this um, this kind of quintessential cowboy, or that grew up on the farm, and not only is he pretty buff and pretty strong, but he's also really willing to work hard,
Right.
and he's also willing to stand up for the lady, and he's also kind and sensitive, so he protects her and he's loving and nurturing with her, but he's also strong enough to stand his ground for her and for himself. And so I think that often I look at that as sort of the quintessential man that doesn't necessarily need to move into the warrior mindset, but is in that balanced state where he's physically strong, he
Right.
owns his masculine power, and he's also willing to be soft with his lady or his children or his mom or his friends or a complete stranger, where he lets that part of his heart come out. So before you even think about like just touching your heart, let's not forget that you were born with muscle for a reason.
Right.
Let's test those muscles. Let's strengthen those muscles. Let's get you doing sit-ups or push-ups, or jogging or running or going to martial arts classes, or anything like that, right? Let's get you physically moving, and like let's get that physical power, that sense of like, oh yeah, I feel empowered. This is amazing. Go out and ride your bike for 50 miles. I don't care. Something. Go rock climbing. Go challenge your body. So when you get off that climbing wall, or you get off that rock face, you come down and you're like, man, I feel powerful.
Yeah.
Right. Now be careful about that, because that power can really start to filter its way into the ego. Right. And something that I think is important for people to recognize is ego plus power equals evil. So it's okay to have that sense of power, but also have that sense of kindness inside of you. So this is where we shift out of the physicality and into the emotional or the spiritual part of us, which is that open-heartedness. So how do you take that journey from your head to your heart? Well,
Right.
there's a multitude of ways that you can do that. First and foremost is you want to practice a level of awareness. Where do I spend most of my time? Am I in my head? Am I physical and I'm not paying attention to what's going on in my brain? Am I emotional? Am I moved? My grandfather was a crier. He'd watch something that I would do and he'd tear up. He'd watch something that my sister would do and he'd tear up. He'd watch a movie, that touched him and he would tear up. I'm the same way,
Right.
right? And I might be coming with this sort of almost assertive, forceful, masculine energy right now, but there's also a real soft part of me. And what happens is when you're aware of what the moment and the situation needs, whether you're by yourself, what do I need right now? What does my lady need right now? What do my children need right now? What do my friends need right now? What does that lady carrying her groceries to the car need right now? Right? What does my dad need right now? When all of a sudden you become aware of what that need is, in that awareness, you can shift from your head to your heart if you need to. You open up this level of kindness and compassion, because the moment you realize I have the power,
Right.
I'm intellectually smart, I have the power, I'm physically strong, I have the power, I've got enough money in my pocket, right? All human beings need power to survive. And so when a man has power, and not power over someone, but power for someone, okay?
Right.
When a man is in empowerment, it means that he has power within him. And when he has that power within him, he can then share that externally and outwardly for other people. And so when you have power, then you feel that sense of I have enough, and what can I share? How can I share? How can I show up for someone else? So first start with a level of awareness. Am I in need? Do I have what I want? Am I operating with integrity? And by that integrity, I mean, am I living to my highest level of standard?
Right.
Am I living by my own moral code? Am I living by my own ethics? Am I living by my own values? Or am I compromising some of those? And if I am compromising some of those, again, awareness. Why am I doing that? Oh, I'm a little afraid. Oh, I'm worried about what I look like. Oh, I want to be seen as, right? Oh, I'm worried about not being strong enough. So I'm coming across as being cocky and arrogant. The moment you look at yourself in the mirror, all of a sudden you can't escape.
Right.
Did you ever see the movie Crash?
Yep.
Okay, one of my favorite movies ever. I love the movie Crash because I feel like Crash was a magic mirror. I watched the movie Crash and I saw everything amazing about myself. And I
Okay.
saw everything terrible about myself also. And it's still profoundly one of my favorite movies because every time I watch it, it gives me a chance to look at myself and go, okay, what do I like about myself? Where am I showing up?
Right.
How can I refine myself? Where am I not showing up? Where do I get to shift? Where do I get to change? Where do I get to transition? Right? This is really important, this awareness of what's not working. So then once you realize what your standards, ethics, morals, and values are, and whether or not you're meeting those, then when you realize, yes, I am meeting those, you identify, am I in my power or can I be more in my power? When you get in your power, this is when you can shift into your heart because then you have enough in you to be able to give and to share with other people, right? Let go of the ego
Hmm.
because ego plus power equals evil. So what happens is that ego actually separates you from connecting with your heart because the ego is in your mind. So when you realize that your ego is popping up and you're worried about what you look like, that's when you get a chance to just say, okay, I'm going to let it go. I forget which Stoic it was, but one of the Stoics would once a year take time to live in just a burlap, clothing, and he
Right.
would give away everything that he owned. And I think Benjamin Franklin, um, once a year or something like this, would also just take, a half a loaf of bread and, the most, uh, not his best clothes, and he would just sleep on the floor somewhere away from his own home just to humble him and remind him of everything that he has. So he had that level of appreciation inside of him.
Right.
So when we realize what we have, then we can appreciate it. When we have something that we can appreciate, we can then share. Okay. So I'm not sure that completely answered your question, but I would say the first most important piece is that you want to start with that power
Right.
and you want to start with awareness,
Right.
both of those.
And I want to kind of underscore your point with those important questions that you're asking yourself
Yes.
and being aware of those questions that you're asking. I really love what you said about how can I show up for my wife or girlfriend? How can I show up for my dad here? And like those questions do take you out of your head, put you in that service place, and being aware of those other questions and that mind chatter, those voices in your head, is such an important practice. And even coaching yourself or writing down those questions that you want to come back to
Yeah.
is so helpful in that practice, so you don't just go to this like default programming mode.
One of the things that I'm sure a lot of your interviewees or experts so far have talked about is I'm sure they've referenced meditation,
Yep.
which is one of the reasons I didn't bring it up because you've heard it over and over and over. And I'm currently doing a 100-day power gong. I'm doing 100 days of meditation, an hour a day, then doing a Facebook Live after, and it's profound. Like I've meditated since I was 19, and I've
Right.
consistently meditated for the past 20 years, but I've never consistently meditated for an hour a day. Usually it's like, 2 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 5 minutes. So it's all over the board and it's at different times during the day, sometimes once a day, sometimes multiple times a day.
Right.
But this is consistently an hour a day. And so meditation works great. But one of the things that you said, which was subtle, and I'm not sure the guys will hear this or did hear this, but I want to like kind of highlight that. Grab a pen and paper. open up your computer, write down, if it connects with you more to pick up the pen and paper, do that. If it connects with you more to type it or to speak it into your phone, do that. But write down, what do you stand for? What do you believe in? What's non-negotiable in your life? If in your life you're like, no, we do not hurt women and children, that's a non-negotiable. That's your standard of living. So put that down. That's your ethics, right? That's your moral. That's your value. Write that down so you stand strong in that. Write these things down so you know who you are and what you absolutely profoundly and powerfully stand for. And then take another column or another space on that page, or the next page, and say, okay, who do I get to be? Who do I want to be to make sure that I am living these standards? Who do I get to be for my dad? Write that down. Who do I get to be for my lady? Write that down. I don't care what your sexuality is. Who do I get to be for my boyfriend? It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is, are you expressing real, genuine love? How are you really standing up for that other person,
Right.
right? Who do I want to be? Who do I get to be for my children? Who do I get to be for my employees? Who do I get to be for my team? And don't forget yourself. You should start with this one, but if you end with this one and it's fine, who do I get to be for myself? Like, who do I really want to be if no one else was around? How would I want to walk through my own house? How would I want to walk through my own life? How would I want to carry myself? A friend of mine said to me yesterday, he said, you know what I've found lately, PJ, is I'm walking through my own home as if I'm being followed by my disciple. So he's walking with this mindset as a samurai, right? He's walking as if nobody's around. He lives by himself. He's walking as if he gets to be aligned and connected and empowered and focused and intentional, so that if someone is walking with him and it's his student, he's showing them what the highest standard of living is. And I do the exact same thing. Maybe not physically, but the expression of spirit, the expression of intention, and both my mind, my body, and my heart, my spirit, all of that, even when I'm alone, whether I'm alone in public or I'm alone at home or anywhere, I make an effort to really check in with myself once in a while. Whenever it pops up in my head, I ask, am I being the best version of myself right now?
Right.
And if I'm not, I'm like, okay, cool. Thank you. How could I be better? And what would my best look like? How could I be better? And what would my best look like? And this challenges me. Look, I can't even not smile, because all of a sudden it infuses me with this sense of power, this sense of alignment, this sense of worth, this sense of value. Am I being the best version of myself right now? And usually the answer is no, you're not. And I'm like, okay, how can I be better? Boom. Now, what would my best look like? Boom. And then I'm really on point. That's sharpening the saw. That's sharpening that sword. That's alignment. That's power. That's cutting through the fog. That's cutting through the fears. That's cutting down the dragons or the demons or the ego or the enemy. The only real enemy in the world is your own ego. Right? I love this saying too. I'm going to say this because maybe it'll lead us somewhere. One of my favorite Buddhist monks, Lama Zopa Rinpoche,
Hmm.
um, he's a Tibetan Buddhist monk. Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, no anger inside, no enemies outside. This is the study of a real man. No anger inside, no enemies outside. Everyone is your friend. Everyone you serve, everyone you care about, everyone you support. And then when somebody steps up to you and shows you that they're your enemy, that's wonderful, because Buddha says, if you don't have any enemies, find some. Buddha doesn't say go and make some enemies. Buddha
Right.
says, you don't have enemies, find some. And what he's saying is, find someone who will challenge you so you can test your standards, your values, your morals, your ethics. So you can look at yourself and say, am I where I want to be? Am I at my highest standard? Am I being the best version of me? If I'm not, how can I be better? And what would the best version of me look like right now? Right? So this is powerful. Like, I'm tingling from my brain to my spine, right? I feel like infused with energy and power in my body. Now I feel like, yeah, let's fight. And I don't want to fight. Like, I don't necessarily really want to fight. You know
Right.
what I mean? But I want to test that muscle. I want to test that courage. I want to test that strength. I want to test that resolve. It's amazing. And Miyamoto Musashi, a famous swordsman of Japan, said something in his book called The Book of Five Rings. He said, samurai operates and lives with a resolute acceptance of death, right? That resolute acceptance of death is like, I'm going to die. And
Right.
hey, today is a good day to die, right? Maybe I'm going to die today, and I'm going to step boldly forward into that power. And what's actually dying is not your body in modern society, but your freaking ego. Drop that ego. Kill that ego. That is your enemy. The only enemy is your ego, right? The adversary is your greatest teacher, right? So if you're wrestling and fighting and struggling with somebody, they're teaching you how you're being. They're teaching you how you can be, how you can be different. The ego is what's stopping you from learning. The ego is what stops you from growing and expanding. This is what's powerful, bro. Like, this is amazing, right? So there is no enemy outside. The enemy is inside. Anytime you're in agony, agon, the root of agony is agon, means to be at war with. When you are at war with yourself, that's because part of you wants to be one way. That's your authentic self. And the other part of you is your ego saying, no, 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 we're going to do this and I'm going to be in control. No, you take that crap back. Take that back. You are a man. Everything in the universe is built on contrast. This doesn't feel good. This feels better. Make a shift from what doesn't feel good to what does feel good. Every moment of every day is about choice. Choice means you're free. When you are not, there's only two kinds of people in the world. There's free people and there's slaves. You get to be free because you realize there's a choice. That's why a minute ago I said awareness is the most important process between your head and your heart. Because if you don't start with that awareness, you will never realize you have choice. You will always act out of reaction, and a reaction is a slave action because you don't think about it. Your primal process kicks in and takes over. That
Right.
means you're acquiescing and giving over your power and your choice to a primal process designed to protect you from saber-toothed tigers, not designed to help you align yourself and connect with your lady and be a better father and a better son and a better steward for your community and a better business owner and a better lover and a kinder human being and a smarter, more interesting person to talk to.
Whoa. Whoa.
Boom! Mic drop, baby. That's what I'm about to do.
Seriously. Seriously, you just took me and the listeners on a journey. I love it.
Yes. And this is who I really am, right? I don't know where this like quieter, slower part was coming from with this group. I don't know why. I just trust what comes through me and flows through me. Right. And so in that moment, like the first half of this conversation, there was kind of this, yeah, it's okay. It's an okay conversation. Maybe he talks a little bit too much, whatever. Right. And he's saying a couple good things and we're moving along. And then boom, the floodgates open. This is who I really am. This is the real power. This is who I love to be because this is enthusiasm. This is inspiration. Enthusiasm comes from entheos. Entheos means inner full of God, divine power. Right? The martial art that I study is called the Bujinkan. Bujinkan, divine warrior school, divine warrior, right? It powers and flows through you. So I can take my hands out off the wheel and just let spirit guide.
Right.
This is power. This is power. Get the ego out of the way so the truth can flow through. And that truth is sometimes love. And that truth is sometimes power and strength and resolve to say, okay, hey, baby, today's a good day to die. I ain't going down, but I'm going to give it my best fight. If I do go down, I'm giving it my best fight. Samurai died with dishonor if they did not draw every weapon on the battlefield before they died. And
Right.
this translates to everyday society in this way. If you don't actually show up fully and completely and make every effort to repair and fix those relationships, including the relationship you have with yourself, then you are not operating with honor. Because you are not making an effort to refine and make yourself better. You get that opportunity to be better every single day, physically, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, financially, socially, in your relationship, intimate relationships with yourself and with others.
Right.
Woo! I'm excited now, man. I'm fired up.
I am too. It's a great framework that you can feel the energy and the empowerment of shifting your thinking from that way and identifying the ego as that enemy, and how to be a samurai ninja against it.
Yes, exactly. You know what? I'm going to say this too. This is something you and I spoke about a little bit right before we got on the phone. I do not typically get angry. I honestly, man, in my 49 years can't think of but maybe 3 or 4 times in my whole life, maybe 5 times in my whole life when I've been genuinely angry.
Right.
Only one time, okay, maybe, yeah, okay, I'm going to go with 3 times that I can think of when there was actual rage, and it was always about somebody getting hurt or something being stolen. Um, my ego felt like something was being stolen from me one time recently,
Right.
right? But that's okay because that operated in a way that allowed that ego to be thrown to the ground and shattered on the ground. And it was as if spirit said, now put it back together. Put
Okay.
it back together. And as I put it back together, I realized who I was. I was spending too much time in spirit and I wasn't honoring the full capacity of who I am. I was feeling as if I was only a spiritual guy and not also a physical guy anymore. I was honoring spirit, but it wasn't really honoring my own emotions and what I wanted. I was honoring spirit and I was compromising and not really studying and learning because I was like, oh, well, is it spiritual and wisdom or is it intellect and knowledge? No, it's all, because nothing exists in the world that is not divine, that is not God, that is not the pure potential energy that everything in the universe is built on. If you don't want to be spiritual, that's fine. Be physical, be uh, quantum minded, right?
Right.
Be in theoretical physics where they're talking about um, the universal field theory and string theory, where everything is built from this pure potential, which is energy. So
Right.
it doesn't matter. Everything is born from that. If everything is born from that, then energy is pure potential and you can become anything that you want because that energy chooses to take a form, a rock, a tree, you, me, our conversation is energy,
Right.
right? Energy is everything that everything is built upon. And so if you want to change the energy that you show up with. So I tell you this, remember I started this rant, so to speak, on my soapbox that I said I don't get angry very often, but I work with a lot of women around the world and I work with a lot of men, but I work with a lot of women around the world who are telling me men around the world just want sex.
Right.
Men around the world don't want a relationship. Men around the world that are dating online, that all they want to do, like from literally from 20 something to 70 something, women are telling me this. And it's absolutely ridiculous and disgusting. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be sexual. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with wanting to be physically intimate. The problem is men get their power from taking and women get their power from giving. And so
Right.
men aren't giving in the relationship when they could be. What they're doing is they're just being overtly sexual and they want to basically take something from her to get his own pleasure. It's not about giving to her. It's not about the act of making love anymore. It's not about the act of showing up and being a good man. These are adult males. They're not men,
Right.
right? And so this is where I get amped up. I want to go to war, bro. Like I want to pick up the tomahawk and go on the warpath because I want to say, look, dude, either you're with me and we're good men because the world needs good men, because
Right.
when we have good men and we have that masculine power protecting, then that masculine power provides a space for the feminine nurturing and that love to be expressed holistically and completely. And we are the recipients of that. But when we go in and we try to take, the women shut down their femininity to protect themselves. They push against and they turn on their masculinity. Now we're losing that critical component of feminine nature,
Right.
right? And the women have that softness that allows a man to soften. But sometimes a man is so wrapped up in his ego and so wrapped up in what he wants that he's not taking into consideration how he balances or doesn't balance or takes out of balance the rest of the world. So I want to stand up against these men and I want to lift other men up. And these men that we're standing against, I want to say, dude, you got two choices, right? You can get kicked off the island or you can join us. But when you join us, you become a good man or you get kicked out,
Right.
right? Because there's only two kinds of people in the world. There's free people and there's slaves. And I'm not going to let you make our women slaves, right? I'm not going to let you live in slavery if I can hold you high and challenge you to take responsibility for yourself and look at yourself in the mirror and look at yourself internally, insightfully, right? And be authentic with yourself and say, I am not happy and that's why I'm trying to take from these people. I don't feel fulfilled. So instead, let's find a way to get you fulfilled. Let's find a way to get your power back so you have enough to give and not take, right?
Amen.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yes, man, I'm stoked. I love this stuff. Dude, I could do this all day. I
No,
just
I
get
mean,
like this
I'm
is about
tingling
power.
because I've been there. I've been that bad guy, and I've used the drugs and alcohol and women to feel better about myself, to get that pleasure. And the reason I started this work on myself was to it didn't work, and it left me feeling empty and worse about myself until it got to a point where I just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
So I think it is important, and I think so many guys chase that good feeling, and I really like what you said about taking, because it is taking, and when you're just taking, you're not of service, and you don't serve yourself, and it just keeps this bad cycle going.
Yep.
So I'm with you in standing in this manhood accountability to help us solve the world's problems and get away from this ego driven mindset so we can solve some problems.
Absolutely, man. I'm 100% with you. And I honor and respect the fact that you're so courageous to speak openly about that. I had my bout with drugs and alcohol too. And on the other end, I've always protected women because when I was 9 years old, yes, I'm pretty sure I was 9. I don't think I was 10 yet. I was 9 years old and I was put in the hospital for whatever reason. I was in the hospital like 17 times until I was in 8th grade, right? So I was in the hospital. I was in the pool experiencing pool therapy.
Right.
And the pool therapist was a man and he could care less about me.
Right.
He was flirting and being overtly sexual with the female pool assistant outside of the pool. And it was an above ground pool. So, it wasn't sunk down. So when he stood up in the pool, she was standing up outside of the pool, they were still like basically standing on the same surface level.
Right.
Right. Well, he took her to the back of the pool and left me in the front of the pool, and I could barely keep my head above the water. It was high enough that I was struggling to be able to breathe. And I was trying to push off the bottom to be able to breathe. And he didn't care about me. I was fighting for my life. And I watched him pull out his erect penis and try and get her to touch it. And I was 9, bro. And right now, that's one of the times, remember when I said there were about 3 times when I raged?
Right.
I wanted to rip him in half. I wanted to destroy him and tear him apart because you don't do that to women. She was clearly uncomfortable. She was more concerned about me and not me seeing, but about me not being able to breathe. And he was like, he'll be fine. I don't care. He'll be fine. Like, I'll go and get him if he needs it. Right. And I don't even know if he said those words, but that was kind of the attitude. He was so concerned about getting his own pleasure that I just wanted to destroy him. In that moment, everything in my life changed. And so I should have told my mom and dad, but I didn't. Right? Or I should have told somebody at the hospital, but I didn't. I told 2 of my little friends. And when I told 2 of my little friends, they told their parents, which they should have. Their parents told my parents, which they should have. Then my dad came at me and yelled at me for about 5 or 10 minutes. And for almost all of my life, I would remember that. And I was like, yeah, my dad yelled at me for like 5 or 10 minutes over that. Wow. Why does that keep coming up? I mean, because dude, I got yelled at before. It's no big deal, right?
Right.
But why does that particular thing bother me? So I went to explore it because that's what we do as men. That's what we do as human beings that are in an evolutionary process. We want to grow. We want to get better. And so in that process, I realized, and this is only like not even 6 months ago. Maybe it's close to 6 months ago, right? Probably close to 6 months ago when I had this epiphany, and I was at a leadership retreat, and they said, "Hey, okay, go and journal about some, a really traumatic experience in your life." And I was like, I don't have traumatic experiences in my life. My life's been amazing. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll journal about this because it keeps coming up and I don't know why it comes up. So I'll just journal about this. So I journaled about, I was like, okay, am I going to journal about my dad? And I was like, well, before I journal about my dad, I should journal about what my dad yelled at me for. So I journaled about what this dude did to this woman, right? And how I felt. And then it rolled over into what my dad did to me, re-victimizing me, right? By yelling at me and then taking my power away. Right? Instead of empowering me and saying, hey, son, how did that make you feel? What would you have liked to have done? Who could you have told? And giving me some guidance about how to grow up to be a man. Right? He missed a prime opportunity to empower his son. Instead, he made an effort to take my power. In both of those moments, I shifted my brain and my way of thinking about the world so deeply and profoundly. And I study a lot of brain chemistry and neurolinguistic programming and neuroplasticity and all of that. So I was able to go back and look at how I shifted my brain and turned myself in a completely different direction and became a different human being. And that's when I turned off my sexuality. At 9 years old, I turned off my sexuality because I realized that no woman in my presence would ever again feel unsafe. And consequently, I wound up teaching women self-defense courses. Consequently, I wound up being single most of my life, right? Now, I'm not always single now, right? But that's because I've shifted.
Right.
And I'm in a completely different state of mind now than I used to be. But that was because no woman would ever feel that way. And I would always stand against what was wrong and evil in this world. And so that was great for me, but it also turned off a particular trajectory. I was going this direction,
Right.
right? And then boom, I want that direction, slightly off course, but I picked stuff up. It's the same idea of when you get knocked down, pick something up,
Right.
right? So don't stand back up without some kind of knowledge, wisdom, or weapon, right? For your future. So that's all relevant and important, because when I say that I'm angry right now with the men around the world, I'm angry because they're not rising to the occasion. They're not being good men and protecting the women and children. They're not being good to themselves. They're not honoring their own integrity, their own heart, their own drive, their own power, their own enthusiasm, their own excitement. They're cheating themselves. And I don't want that, brother. And any man who's listening to this has already evolved to a certain degree, or he wouldn't be listening to this. So
Right.
every man on here is probably already a good man, but how can you be a great man? How can you be a powerful man? How can you drive the conversation forward so much and so powerfully and so dynamically, in just the way you be and just the way you show up and just the way you treat other people, that other men are inspired by you? Men follow men into battle
Right.
that they're inspired by. So inspire them into battle against themselves. Remember Agon, to be at war with your ego versus your authentic self. Who do I really want to be in that empowered state? Who am I when I feel weak and overwhelmed and not valuable and not worthy and unloved? Right? This is not a good place to be. And when you mentioned, this is the last thing I'm going to say, and sorry, I'm not actually, you know what? I'm not sorry, brother.
Don't
I
be
know I'm on a
sorry.
roll. I'm stoked. I'm like pumped up. I'm pouring everything I can into you guys. When you said a minute ago, you're like, yeah, I used the sex and the alcohol and the drugs and using women to kind of get rid of the pain. What we're really saying, and I want everybody to realize this, is we're anesthetizing ourselves,
Right.
right? We're anesthetizing ourselves so that hole that's inside of us, we don't feel the hole when we're anesthetized during the sex because it feels good, because of the alcohol and the drugs because it feels good. We are, um, we are that pain is being taken away for a moment so that hole can be torn bigger. And that means that we show up as less of a man.
Right.
And then we anesthetize ourselves again, and that hole gets torn bigger, and we show up as less of a man. And so the more you get involved in just sex for the sake of your own pleasure versus making love and giving and being a loving partner with the woman that you're with, she does not necessarily have to be your girlfriend or your wife,
Right.
right? If you've got a girlfriend or wife, I hope you're not, you know, cheating. That's not what I'm saying. Unless you guys are in an agreed upon open relationship, which is totally up to you. But make sure it's agreed upon. But what I'm saying is that any woman that you come together with, you want to make sure that you're pouring that love into, right? And if what you're doing is drinking and using the drugs or the sex as a way of just getting rid of the pain, it's only going to make the pain worse on the back end. Instead, become aware of where that pain is coming from. Why do you feel weak? Why do you feel disempowered? Why do you feel unworthy? Why do you feel like you lack value? Where has your leadership gone? Why don't you feel physically empowered? Why don't you feel smart enough? Why don't you feel good enough? Why don't you feel worthy? So once you start to become aware of
Right.
where that's coming from, then you can go back and fix that. Okay? That's the process of healing. That's the process. And healing means to be made whole. Heal comes from halo, and halo means to make whole or complete. And so you are not whole because you have a hole. But once you fill that hole, once you heal that hole, all of a sudden you are whole, you are complete. And when you are complete and full and empowered, and you can share and give and show up as the man you want to be. Don't you like yourself better now, brother, than you did, say, what, 3, 4, 5 years ago?
Definitely.
Why? Why do you like yourself better?
Um, there is less of that internal critic. There is more alignment with where I want to go, and more walking into fear of playing a bigger game and serving the world. So there's more alignment with who I am authentically.
Yep. And doesn't that feel right?
It does. It does. And in addition, it also is this evolving,
Yes.
like you were saying, kind of war with the ego that,
Yes.
I'm still have a ways to go, and that is an interesting journey and battle that is where all the gold lies.
Yes. And you know what? Just look at them as challenges. Men like challenges, right?
Right.
We love to climb because we love the challenge. We love to hike because we love the challenge. You know, how fun would it to be out on a hike and you actually have to crawl over and climb over boulders, right?
Right.
Why do we wrestle with each other? Because we like the challenge. We want to get stronger. So anytime that pops up, we're like, okay, cool. I see the ego there. All right, what's on the other side? What's the man on the other side? Who's the man on the other side? Cool. How do I get to that man? Right? How do I destroy this obstacle? How do I release the resistance, let go of my limiting beliefs, or overcome the obstacle? Do I blow it up? Do I walk around it? Do I get smarter and go under it? Do I climb over it? Do I partner with a team to go over it and bring everybody over? But all I care about is how do I get to be the man on the other side of that, right? And so instead of seeing it as, oh, this is just so rough, no, it's just another challenge. Smile into it. Lean into it, get excited about it. Like, this is fantastic. This makes me stronger. Resistance and resistance is what creates the power.
Right.
Don't have resistance, you don't get stronger. So resistance is a gift from the universe to allow you to become more and more and more powerful.
All right. I like that frame a lot, and I think, I was just in the gym earlier, so it's a nice metaphor that people can wrap their head around.
Right, it resonates, right?
Yep. All right. I mean, I think that's a great place to land the plane. Do you think there's anything that we missed that we need to touch on before we wrap up?
I'm going to be quiet for a minute. I'm going to close my eyes for a second because I want to let it flow through me instead of from me. Okay. So give me just a couple of seconds. Where in your life do you want to go to war with yourself? Where in your life do you want to release the resistance? Where in your life do you want to fall in love with yourself again? Where in your life do you want to forgive yourself? Where in your life do you want to step forward and become the man that you were born to be? When you identify that man, that hero, that warrior, when you identify the stand that you want to take and the way you want to truthfully be seen in the world, that's when you get to start chipping away the pieces that don't belong, letting go of the things and the behaviors and the thoughts and the ways of showing up that don't serve you, and really start to expose the real, true, dynamic, powerful, loving, kind, courteous, courageous you. So don't be afraid to step into that power. Don't be afraid to see yourself as you want to see yourself. And don't be afraid to ask yourself, okay, if I'm not the best version of myself right now, how do I get better? And then what does the best version look like? And let that best version be the guide, the compass, the direction. Let that best version call you forward and pull you forward and be excited every step of the way to get closer and closer to becoming the man that you really want yourself to be. Don't question it, become it.
Woo. Amen.
Amen.
Getting the chills. All right. Really appreciate all the wisdom that you've shared and the energy and the heart that you've brought today. It is palpable.
Thank you.
So thank you.
It's absolutely 100% my pleasure. Gentlemen that are out there, even though I don't know you, I love you. I have mad love for you. I have mad respect for you. And I also have a challenge for you. Stand up for yourself so you can stand up for those that you love.
All right. And I believe you've got an offering for the audience.
Sure, absolutely. Any gentleman who would actually like to have a conversation with me because they're struggling with how to figure out how to get past that, there's a link that's probably in their email. Yes, Ben?
Yep.
Just click the link, sign up for a 20-minute call. It's called Discovering True Love Conversation. Don't be thrown off by that. It was, I primarily started working with women like 3 years ago, and I've just never changed the name. But the truth is the truth. It's always still about love, right? Just because we're masculine and they're feminine doesn't mean that it's not still about love. It's just the expression of love happens slightly differently. So get on a 20-minute call with me. Let's explore who you are and what's going on with you. What are your roadblocks? What's in your way? And how do we get you through those? Okay. I am your partner. I am your friend, and I am your confidant. And let's do this together. You don't have to do it alone.
All right. It's a great place to say goodbye, and thank you once again. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Ben. My pleasure. And I genuinely mean that. Thank you for this opportunity, gentlemen. I love you. Go out and be good men. Make me proud. More importantly, make the women that you're with proud. Actually, you know what? Can I say one more thing? It's
Please.
literally a quick, like sort of poem or quote. I love this. A good man does not make his woman jealous. A good man makes his woman's friends jealous. Juicy and delicious. A good man does not make his woman jealous. A good man makes his woman's friends jealous. Where they're like, oh my God, I wish I had a man like yours. And you're like, yeah, baby, you know you got me. I'm there for you. Sorry,
That's
I don't know
right.
why I had to get all crazy. I love it. Right? So instead, be the best possible man you can be. Let other people look at you and go, gosh, I wish my dad was like yours. Gosh, I wish my husband was like you or was like him. Gosh, you know, I wish that my boss was as good as your boss. Right? So be the best version of you and
All
you'll be
right.
fine. Cool?
Yeah.
All right. All right, beautiful people. Gentlemen, I love you and I respect you and thank you for showing up because the world needs good men in it.